This is Paul Herman, the Prince of Motivation and host of Zaka Presents My Journey. We're creating this vulnerable and positive platform where you get inspired and motivated from different leaders from our community. Today, our guest is Illiana Acosta, who is a senior manager at LinkedIn Business Development Organization. Illiana, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to have you on, and it's also a pleasure to have a New Yorker on. You know what I'm saying?
Born and
That's a
bred, through and through.
come on. We gotta represent. We gotta represent for the good ones that are out there. You know what I'm saying? New York.
I mean, I don't have as much of an accent as you, but the Latina New York accent comes out every so often, so you might hear it.
Okay, well, look, we're gonna dive in. We are gonna dive in. So we are. You just kind of gave a little gem right there. You are Latina, so just do me a favor. Give us a little bit more of your cultural background and where you grew up.
Yeah, I was born to Dominican parents. I grew up in New York. They immigrated from Dominican Republic in the 60s. And I was not born in the 60s. Let me not age myself that far back. Okay. No offense. That's
She
okay.
caught her. Okay.
But no, grew up in Queens, and I spent the majority of my life there, but spent the last, I would say, 12, 13 years in Harlem before moving to South Florida. So I'm by Miami now. And yeah, lots of energy in my family. And though, if I'm being honest, like I grew up in a single parent household. And so though I lacked the traditional dynamic of a household, I never lacked love. And so
Mm, mm,
come
mm,
from a place of love and understanding and kindness. And I'm very grateful to have had that in my life.
mm. Would you say that's a part of the culture, the Latino culture, Latina culture? Like,
Yeah, we embrace everybody. Like there was never a time where went to my grandma's house and she didn't have enough food to feed like 30 people. Mind you, only two, three people may have visited her that day, but she's like, you always got to be prepared. And so in case someone shows up, you always got to have some food on the table. So very
mm,
inclusive, very arms wide open. Like my house is your house, mi casa su casa. Um,
Oh, I know that line very well. I remember growing up in the Bronx. One of the biggest things that I was always trying to be down with is the quinceañeras.
It's
I
funny.
was
I never had one.
what?
I know. I never had the
Well, don't
big,
worry. It's never too late to have a party,
never
right?
to have a party, but you know what? We ain't had the funds to do
Ah,
quinceañera. So,
okay.
like, it was one of those things growing up is, I didn't lack love, but we lacked resources, to live
Mm-hmm.
an abundant life. And quinceañeras, man, for those who have had them, they're like a wedding, bro.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive. Pretty expensive. So
Yeah.
were you the only sibling? I mean, the only child? Sorry.
So my mom has two children with my dad. So I have an older brother who's about almost 7 years older, and then myself. But my dad has 10 kids total. So he was like Oprah, honey. He was like, you get a kid, you get a kid, everybody get a kid. Very fertile.
Ooh,
So
wow.
he has a lot of
So
kids.
I can see where grandma was talking about you need to have enough food in the house.
Exactly,
That
exactly.
that that makes that makes more sense now. I'm understanding now. I'm picking up
Yeah,
what you're dropping down.
yeah. I have a lot of siblings, and they're all just beautiful people. So I'm grateful to have been a part of such a big family.
Now, you mentioned something that's very important, resources, right? We already know it is immigrant parents coming in, it's definitely very hard to create those resources for your children, right? So how did you feel about not having those resources at a young age, and how did you go about obtaining that? Because a lot of the guests have talked about, for example, applying to colleges, for example. That was like a very big thing for them. It was like a moment in time they could remember where it was, and even myself and my parents being Caribbean as well too. Um, they didn't understand the FAFSA forms and how to fill that out.
Oh my gosh. I think I have PTSD from that. I'm not even gonna lie. We can get into that a little bit, but um, you know, I feel like I can give you some memories. Like growing up, I'd see, my classmates with like the coolest sneakers, right? The new J's, whatever. And I remember always wanting those sneakers. And my mom would be like, oh, we have to wait. And she would save up. I didn't understand at that age what my mom was going through. I remember seeing one of her paycheck stubs, and it was like $1,100 or something for like 2 weeks of pay. And I was like, Mom, you have so much money. $1,100 to feed two children, pay rent,
Pay rent,
train,
utilities.
food, utilities, etc. And so like that really wasn't a lot of money when you had two growing children, teenagers, who had a lot of needs, clothes, food, most importantly. And as I look back at it now and I'm like, you know what? I give my mom everything now because the hell that I put her through when I was a teenager, wanting all these things. And, I didn't love the concept of having to wait. I wanted it. And so I wanted it now. And so I quickly learned, like, okay, if I wanted these cool sneakers, I was going to have to get it myself because my mom couldn't afford it. And if I'm being honest, my dad wasn't a very present dad for the first 20 plus years of my life. Him and I are very close now, but growing up, I didn't have that resource. So I couldn't just be like, hey, dad, can you buy me this, this, and this? And he'd willingly give it to me. It's like, here's some sprinkles of cash here. Hey, I'm in town. Let me go buy you some stuff and make you happy. And so I actually started working at the age of 12 because I wanted to make my own little coin. And so I was like
Okay.
answering phones for like my mom's.
You definitely from Queens.
I know, hustle. The hustle's real. And then I just never not had a job. And so I don't remember not having a job since the age of 12, whether it was answering phones on a weekend or helping someone with chores, whatever it was. And then I got a job at Sam Goody's, throwback. And it was a very cool job in high school. I was a very cool kid with this job. And I just always realized, like, all right, if I want something, I'm going to have to get it myself. And so, from a resource standpoint, because we lacked, and it wasn't just my mom, it was my family in general, like everybody's trying to make it. I had to go after it. And then when it came to school, um, if I'm being honest, as a Latina, like and even immigrant parents, like all they know is like you becoming a doctor or a lawyer, something that they see on TV, and you're striving for this doctor or lawyer as you're growing up, and then you realize like I don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer. But what I did know is that I didn't want to end up like what I was surrounded by. Like I had neighbors who were 13, pregnant with twins. Another neighbor had like 8 kids, and I remember she was like in her mid-20s. Like this was what I was surrounded by. And so I was like, if I don't want that, then I have to do what they're not doing, which is like school at that age. That's what I'm thinking. I got to do school because I don't see them doing that. So I'm going to go to school. And that's how I navigated. And if I'm being honest, my mom was a big advocate for me to just like go to school and constantly supported me. Like she was a mom that was like, "Oh my God, you have a 95 on your test and it's on the refrigerator." And that part of, that recognition and, having someone that celebrated me so often, I think really helped me say, I want to keep her proud and keep making her proud.
You brought up a lot of things in that segment right there. Something that it's really making me understand. A lot of the guests have come on, even my family members as well too. They always talked about the lawyer, the doctor, but I think you answered the question we've all been wondering: why doctor, lawyer? And you said it right there. It's because what they saw on TV.
The
So
American,
all those sitcoms, Matlock,
yeah. The
novella,
Cosby Show.
Cosby Show.
About it. Like they were the only family of color on TV. And that's like, oh wow.
So and in those sitcoms or whatever the case may be, they were doctors, they were lawyers, they were policemen. So whatever they saw on TV, they were like, well, I guess this is what we need to watch. I remember I've been watching my Spanish friends will always watch Telemundo.
Yeah.
And they would just be dropping the stuff, and the adults would be glued into the screen.
For
So
hours.
I was on in watching the show, and I would be like, let's just go outside and play. But now I understand that was one of their first visuals
It's
of
almost
what life should look like.
right. Fantasize. If you think about it, it's like you come from a different country. Number one, like I just admire people who immigrate from other countries to here or anywhere really, because you're choosing to leave a life that's the only life you've ever known.
Yeah, and you're comfortable. Yeah, I'm saying, and
Right.
everything is kind of laced out. You know exactly where you got to go. You know, you got family members, friends. You know the
You
schooling.
know the
Yeah,
language,
that's right.
everything. And then you come here and like, holy cow, I don't know
You're on
any
your own.
I don't know the language, you're on your own, etc. So it's almost like this, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, it's like that's what they're told or shown that makes like the most money. And so they're like, go for something that makes a lot of money so that you can end up in a better place than what we are now.
Now I'm understanding. Now when my mother watches these shows, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna set her down. Like I know exactly why you wanted me to be a lawyer.
Yeah, yeah,
I know
yeah. And, you know,
exactly.
some people are built for it, and some people are
Yeah.
just like, hey, that doesn't drive me as much, you know?
Gotcha. We're gonna talk a little bit more about your business. I mean, what you're doing in corporate and life. But I thank you for expressing some of those tough moments and stuff like that, and sharing some of those things. I know it is when you go back and you think about it, like that shaped you, that made you the person that you are. So, shout out to kudos to you for that. How does you like your culture, like your culture identity, being a Latina? How has that shaped you in your journey, like in your leadership style, and just in general, like in at work?
Yeah, I think from a culture piece, you know, I celebrate my culture. You know, I love Latinidad in terms of the food, the traditions, the community. Community, I think, first and foremost, because I feel like everyone just like comes together in celebrations. Like, I can't remember, I don't know any Dominican family that celebrates like quietly, you know? Like, it's always loud. And
Oh Lord.
it's almost
That's a
like
good observation. Good
it's
observation.
almost like you feel safer when
Yeah.
it's loud, you know what I mean? Because like, okay, I have people around me. This is community. And so I think that to me feels really good. It makes me feel safe. I don't know if it's the New Yorker in me or in the Latina in me, because like, you know, I live in the suburbs now and I'm like, it's too quiet. I'm not walking outside today. But if there was 1,000 people, I would walk
Yeah.
out, no
You like what's
problem,
going
you
on?
know?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, the culture I think has helped me to be more open to people and getting to know people and being more welcoming and embrace others and embrace different and diverse backgrounds, because I'm different and I have a diverse background. And so I think that has allowed me to be that much more open to learning about different cultures, learning about different people, because I know that what a gift I have to be have experienced like this culture. And I want to learn about everybody else too. So I feel like that's a
Nah,
way to shape me.
diversity does do work miracles.
It
You know,
does.
some people run from it, but it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing if you truly utilize it for the right reasons. You know
I
what I'm saying? So I'm with you on that. When did you realize you want to pursue business? Like, again, let's dive into that. Business is like you all about it. So when did you realize that you want to pursue a career in business? And like, could you talk to me a little bit more about like that first job in business and how'd you feel about that?
um I like money, you know what I mean? So it's not even like I like money if I'm
Well,
being honest with you.
if
It's more
you
of I like the having a comfortable living and getting the things that I need to survive and not struggle the way I did. And so I, like I mentioned before, I've always worked. So I've always had that hustle and grit. And I think, you know, having to overcome adversity, having to, you know, if I'm being honest, like do a lot with a little, right? Be innovative, be creative in how I do things. Is that really, I don't know, I just really had a lot of interest in that. And I didn't want to be a lawyer because, you know, back then I was like 8 years of school. No, thank you.
yeah, like
Mind you, I ended up doing my MBA anyhow, so I still went back to school anyways. I didn't want to be a doctor because it grossed me out with the blood and stuff. But we need doctors. Thank you for all doctors.
okay.
But I started taking an interest in marketing in undergrad. I took a marketing, an advertising class, and the assignment, one of the assignments was to work with the team to develop a like ad campaign for like a new product that you invent on your own. And this was a while ago. And I've always taken on a leadership role. I've always led teams, even in undergrad. I'd be like, I'll take it, I'll take it, I'll take it, right? And I've had this gift, what I didn't realize it was a gift then, but it is a gift to be able to like bring people together, all working towards the same goal, and then successfully be able to do that and execute on that. And this class, it was so fun to me to not only think about like how creatively we can bring this product to market, which by the way, if I tell you the product, you're gonna laugh. It was, you know, I'm gonna date myself, but you know the Discman, right? Like you had
The
this,
the CD Walkman?
right, the CD
Yeah.
Walkman. So it was taking that, but like making a portable version of like a 6 disc like player so you can play different, which fast forward the iPod.
Oh,
I was like,
oh,
I had something. But nevertheless, that's
that would
when
have been pretty big. It would have been a bit pretty big.
low key or high key, yes.
Yeah, you would have made some bread.
I
But
know.
don't worry, you can still develop it. You can still
Right,
buy. You can
right.
still
I
do it.
have other things to develop, but
I know some people
uh,
still got CDs, right?
I have some actually.
Myself as well too.
I have some, and I got some DVDs too. Um,
Come on.
Not many, but I still have. But that's when I got interested in it because I saw not only like from a creative aspect how to bring number one, like create a product, right, from its inception, but then how do you creatively like bring the product to market, but more so from a business end, like how's this going to work? How are we going to operationalize it? How are we going to market it? How are we going to make money? Who's our target audience? The price point, what's our distribution channels? What's the supply chain? Like going through that whole
Right.
process, I'm like, this is fun. This is interesting to me. And so that's really what got my interest. And so once I, finished undergrad and I have a degree in marketing, I then started working in corporate America in retail, actually corporate retail for limited brands. And yeah, and then my journey kind of has evolved. I think a lot of people think like your journey is like this, um just getting promoted, but my journey has been kind of all over the place.
Well, marketing was my major as well too. So
There we
shout out to
go.
that.
There you
Shout out to
go.
that. And marketing, I feel like it opens you up in so many different ways. You think differently, perspectives, but then also it also works on your presentation, your character, because you have to obviously in a sense sell something or try to present something to a group of people that might not even want it, right? So I feel like I was challenged in so many ways being a marketing major to
Mhm.
one think creatively, but then also project my voice and talk about certain things, have intellectual conversations. So I always thank and commend my marketing teachers and professors for helping me out during those busy years.
The
That I had.
psychology in marketing is super interesting too, though.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like all the things that you learn as you're going through, you went through all of it as well. It's just super, super interesting to understand like buying behaviors and what really is going to allow someone to say like, oh, I'm going to get that. It could be the difference of marketing it as like pricing it at 14.99 versus $15.
yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah.
wow, the psychology of things, it's really about positioning.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, but it's. I think it's a great skill set to have
Totally.
if because then you're transferable in all
Yes.
different types of. So if you chose to work on your own, you chose to open your own business or work for another corporation, whatever the case may be, it's
Yeah.
definitely a transferable skill. And so throughout your journey, what was like a big breakthrough? That made you think, realize that you were like a good thought leader in career development and leadership.
I think for me, and I think I told you this, I said this before around like leading teams. I didn't realize like this was a superpower, because this is just what I organically did. Like I don't know, it just always been like, all right, this is the plan. This is what we have to do. Like, you're really good at this. You're really good at this. Okay, great. Let's do this. Right. And I mean, simple terms anyhow. And
Yeah.
I started realizing that superpower, my ability to do that when I started leading teams or even mentoring. Before I even started leading people, I was mentoring people. And the feedback I got from them around like their growth and how I was able to help them on their journeys, that was like, whoa, like that was really reassuring. And so when I think about my own personal and professional brand, I started really outlining like, all right, this is what I want to be known for. And I was getting feedback that reassured me, like that's how I was showing up for people. And so then I started kind of piecing together, like, whoa, this is not the norm because I have had very toxic leaders in my career. I've had ineffective leaders, not toxic, just really ineffective leaders. But then I've also had incredibly motivating and inspiring leaders that allowed me to grow and flourish in my careers. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a page from their book, but then take note of all the other things on what not to do. And that's really when this started coming together for me in terms of how do you how do you become an effective leader to help to motivate and consistently inspire teams to do what needs to be done to deliver on the business outcomes that you're looking to achieve, um,
Hmm.
even through economic downturns, even through uncertainty, even through reorgs and lots of change. Like, how do you lead through all that?
Right.
And that's really what the people is really what allowed me to see that within myself because I started seeing people grow and elevate as a result of my leadership and coaching them. And that, to be honest with you, like that's when I started really feeling that I was living in my purpose on this planet.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't about me selling ads. It wasn't about me having this degree or that degree. It was about me supporting people to become their best self in whatever they were doing.
Mm. That is sometimes and easy is sometimes easier said than done, right? You know, a lot of people I want to coach, I want to coach, but then you got to think about like you're really changing the trajectory of someone's life, right? The things you
Yeah.
say, the things you do, but it is so fulfilling. I understand why people have kids. You know, that's an example of the mentorship and the coaching. You get to firsthand, with your
Yep.
son, your daughter, you're able to kind of just be like, look, let me coach you all the way through. That's why sometimes it's so hard to give up a child to go to college at times because like I've been coaching and mentoring you for 18 years of your life, day in and I'm talking about every day coaching, mentoring.
Everything.
Not like you come to me once a week, right? In 52 weeks in a year. No, I'm talking about 365 days. I've coached and mentored. So I can see when parents are like, oh my gosh, my child's leaving, my child's leaving.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's beautiful that you reach a place, and I think, like you said, your journey has been in various different places, and not in a bad way, but in a good way, right? So all those places help you become a better coach and a better mentor, a better leader, because you've been in different situations that some people may not go through, and if they're about to go through, you could stop them and be like, hey, look, just to let you know, in my previous position, this exactly happened, and let me tell you
Yeah.
exactly what happened. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen here, but I want to be honest with you guys and what I feel potentially could be the outcome, right? So
Yeah.
that's a very, very, very important thing. I know that you mentioned about leadership, you mentioned that, but when you talked about coaching and mentoring people, I am assuming that this Latina culture that you got going on over here is deeply rooted in that. You know what I'm saying? You talked about love, you talked about community. Hopefully, you're not feeding everybody. Like,
No, we're not. We don't got enough food for everybody, honey.
I'm making sure. I didn't know if you pulled in grandma's qualities too, and you started cooking for them in your office or something.
Oh, no, I think when I was younger, I definitely didn't set like boundaries around like, you know, saying yes to everything and not saying no enough, right? Because if you say yes to something, you gotta say no to something else
Yep.
in order to like keep your sanity and not be stretched thin. Burnout happens pretty quickly. I've been burned out before in my career, and I took that as a learning lesson. Like, wait, how do I prevent this from happening again? And I need to pour into myself before I pour into other people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
like, I can't support everyone. But what I would say is that I definitely now at this stage in my career am looking for ways, scalable ways to drive impact for not only the organization that I work in, but also work with other orgs and teams to find ways on how I can support their teams to enhance more self-awareness, improve communication skills and collaboration. And I do that through whether I'm, coaching folks or facilitating workshops, or working with a company to develop a framework that will resonate with their team to be able to, build more of that connection internally, right? Like the more people are connected, the more that they can work together, the more trust is established between people. That's how they can then move on the same path
Yeah.
to achieve
Yeah.
what you want to achieve, right?
That's
And I
true.
think
True.
everything I do is rooted in authenticity. Like that word has been used a lot in the last several years, but I can't really find a better word than that because for so long I was wearing like a mask at work and it was tiring. And I know so many people that do that, any color of the rainbow, by the way.
That is correct. That's correct.
It doesn't matter. And this is not specific to Latinos or Blacks or Asians. Doesn't matter. It's everyone. And it's really tiring. So I try to come from a place of authenticity in everything I do.
So if you had to give three qualities, right?
Mhm.
Uh, Someone of yourself having immigrant parents, right? Latina. What are
Yeah.
three qualities in which you have carried over from your childhood, from your Latina culture
Yeah.
that you bring to the office?
Resiliency.
Ooh, good one. Good one. I like that. Come
Definitely.
on. And you said it first with no problem. You were like resiliency. I like that. Okay,
Yeah,
go on.
because corporate America, there's a lot of changes happening.
And sometimes without you knowing.
Facts, absolutely. Until
Come
like,
on. Come
um,
on.
so I think, being in corporate America for 20 plus years, like it's definitely being resilient, being resourceful. And when I say resourceful, I don't just mean like, oh, let me Google something. I'm saying, hey, you have a challenge. You don't know how to solve it. You find the way to figure out who or what can help you to achieve that and figure a plan to get you there. And so, I may not be an expert in everything, but I guarantee you, I will know someone or something or somewhere that can help me get to the outcome I'm looking for. So I think resiliency, resourcefulness, and being creative. I think a lot of times there are many ways to achieve an outcome, and it's up to you to explore which way you want to approach it and what's going to be allow you. I think for me, the way I approach it, what's going to allow me to learn the most. And that's the path I want to take, because if I learn new skills or learn a new way of achieving something and get really good at that, then I know that if I want to replicate that again, I can use that same method, versus using someone else's method that may have been effective for them, but I feel like there's many ways, many paths to get to the same outcome.
Yeah. I like the three. I like the three. And I like how you put creative at the end.
Thank you.
You was like, hold up, let me throw this one in there. The first two you got me, and then I was very surprised by the creative one. But I think that's important to have it. I mean, it helps you in moments when you got to pivot. You got to be creative.
That's what I'm saying. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like also like change, death, and taxes are guaranteed in life.
What was the
And
first one?
change.
Oh, change. I didn't say change like money change. I was like
Oh,
coins. I said, no, I don't know if everybody.
no, change,
Not
but
the way
like
the word be working sometimes.
constant, right? Like,
Yeah, 100%
so
change. And
how you adapt to that change will influence how you experience that change. And sometimes you got to get creative in how you're gonna like manage through that change that's coming at you. And so you do, I think creative, it's not just being an artist and having art, it's really being creative in your life and how you're approaching it.
change, death, and taxes.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Ooh. The IRS will come get you.
Every
Mm.
single time.
Uncle Sam will come get you.
Uncle Sam will always get his money. I promise.
That
Here,
was always
got mine early.
the person that my family members would always talk about at dinner, like during like the holidays. Like, oh my gosh, Uncle Sam, and I'd be like, who the hell's Uncle Sam? I've never met Uncle Sam in my life, and I don't think any of our Jamaican uncles is named Sam.
I
You know?
want to know where they got that picture. Remember when we were younger?
Yeah. Oh yeah, with the
That
dude with the
like
hat,
the
Abraham
hat, and
Lincoln.
he's like, because they didn't have AI before, right? So they didn't have AI
Oh
to
no.
generate that photo. So like, where did he come from?
You
Oh,
see, you really making this conversation is making me think. You're
wow.
really making me think tonight. You're really making me think tonight. I'm gonna be looking at some of those old sitcoms, and now I'm gonna go look back at this picture of the man doing that and giving the little eyebrow, right? That
I don't
was
know
the
where did he come
picture
from.
when you was doing taxes, especially in New York, right? H&R Block or something like that.
Everywhere,
He was, you saw that, but then I found out who Uncle Sam was, and I was like, all right, hold up. Look, I don't
correct,
really like my uncle. I don't really like
right.
him.
I
He's
want my
not
money
cool. I thought
back.
he was the cool uncle I went to go visit in the Caribbean, but no, definitely not. Okay.
Um, I'm so sorry.
What
We'll have to look at the history of where that photo came from.
what is the what is like a personal challenge? I mean, we talked about a lot of moments in your life where a lot of great things is happening, but like what's like a personal challenge you face in your career being a Latina woman, in a leadership role? Obviously, there's a lot of things that come your way. You mentioned about change, corporate. There's a lot of things that sometimes you can't even predict, right?
Mhm.
And you just don't even know it's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, this hits you. Like, is there a moment in time that you could share with us right now that really, like, kind of like knocks you off your feet if that was the case?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't control what's happening around you, but you can control your reaction. So I think that sometimes, I think the biggest challenge when you're faced with adversity or any sort of change or a challenge that might come your way, I think some people automatically go into like problem solving mode, which is my default. It's like, gotta fix it. I gotta do something about it. Or you let your brain take over, and which is even worse because then your anxiety runs crazy, right? And those are some
Yeah,
of the feelings that I have felt as I've, been challenged with different reorgs or new leadership, et cetera. And when I'm faced with that, it's a constant reminder to myself to take a beat, right? Like there's power in the pause. And it's like, I'm not going to react. I'm actually going to digest. Let me listen to what's happening. Let's really assess like what is actually happening and not what my brain is making up on its own, but what's
true.
the like what's happening right this second, and then be able to attack that, right? And there's because there's so many things outside of your control, you could either freak out, let your anxiety run wild, let your stress take over, or you could say, let me focus on the things that I can do. And that takes the power away from that and gives you back the power.
Yeah,
So that
I'm
is
with
something
you.
I'm constantly working on, is to make sure that I retain the power in every situation, because then I feel good about the things that I'm doing, regardless of what might be happening around me.
Mhm, mhm. Okay. Well said, well said. I know you former co-chair of
Mhm.
LinkedIn Hispanic ERG. Is that correct?
Uh-huh. That's right.
First and foremost, big title.
Is it? Thank
Comes with a
you.
lot of responsibility, which
Yes.
which we already know, right? But I'm letting the listeners know come with a lot of responsibilities. What strategies ERG leaders like yourself should be
Mhm.
thinking of to amplify the voices of the Hispanic culture
Yeah.
and employees at their jobs?
So for those who are not familiar with what an ERG is, it's an employee resource group, or some companies call it affinity groups or BRGs. So it just depends on your organization, but it all means the same.
Sounds
Um,
like the Power Rangers.
the power. Actually, you know what? I kind of like that analogy, because you are
Yeah.
coming together, right? To do,
That's what it sounded like to me.
yeah, you are coming
It's always sounded like that to me. So I was
100.
always down for those teams. I was like, I'm down. Put me on.
Yes, please. Thank you. We love that. Yeah, I was a global coach for a couple years. And I've been in the ERG ecosystem for some time, and now I've stepped away from the role, but I still work with our diversity, inclusion, and belonging team on different initiatives to help upskill ERG leaders. Um, I think any ERG, not just for Latinos and not for Hispanics. It's in general. I think one of the things you always have to keep in mind is your members, the people that you're doing it for, right? And really understand like what are their needs, what are their wants, what are they not getting. You want to be able to be the voice for this community within your organization that will allow for them to flourish, to thrive, to gain access to opportunity, to gain
True.
access to upskilling opportunities that will allow them to thrive in their careers in the organization or beyond. So I think it's important that you really understand what are the needs and wants and desires, and also what are the things that your company, your organization has in place that you could potentially like tap into and tailor for your community, right? And say, hey, like the company has program X that allows for our employees to learn leadership skills. Great that they have it for like the company as a whole. Is there an opportunity for you to develop like a talk track just for this community? Because there are cultural nuances that, our lived experiences shape who we are, and we may not grasp some of the material the same way, or you might want to throw in an additional topic that might resonate with that audience. And so, like, that's an opportunity for you to use your voice. But I would also encourage those who are either considering taking on an ERG role or who are in an ERG role to remember that this is not a social club. Like,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
like
Let's not take
let's
advantage of
celebrate.
it.
Right. It's not a social club for you to like use funds to go party. You are literally a business unit within an
Oh
organization.
no.
Part of that is celebrating the culture. Yes, because people want to work for organizations where they feel like they belong. That is the core responsibility of an ERG, is to make sure that people part of the community feel like they belong there, because then they can bring their whole self to work. They can like do better work and then produce the results that the company is looking for. But remember that you're a business unit. But within that, you say, oh, okay, these are the goals that the company is trying to achieve. How can we play a role in doing
Yeah.
that? And so I think that's the advice that I give me in short. In short, I have a course on LinkedIn Learning actually that is on how ERGs can empower and drive more engagement within their ERGs. So if people want to check it out, it's on there as well.
So listeners who go to your LinkedIn page, and could you just let them know exactly the LinkedIn page?
Yeah, if you go on my LinkedIn profile, it's actually linked within my resources, so you can tap into that and watch the course there. It's
Okay.
I think it's operationalizing in ERGs.
Mm, 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 mm. Come on. Look at that. Already helping. You just joining on today and already helping. Already saying, please click that link. I appreciate that.
You know how that course came about is because I had so many people reaching out to me asking questions on like how did I scale the ERG and our members and our leadership team? How did I do this? And so many questions came about. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like put this in a course so that people can listen to it whenever they want and hopefully it'll help them. And so, that's honestly again part of like my mission in life is to really support others. It feels so good to help in even a small way, to know that I was part of somebody's journey in a positive way. I think that just really makes me feel good. And
It is a good feeling, especially when you have people around you who are winning, right?
right.
That's like going back to like growing up, when we would have like family dinners, like you were excited and happy to have all your family members in the house eating at the same time. Like no one could eat dinner until we all prayed, right?
Yeah.
And then we could all eat. But just having that moment in time where everyone is like sharing that meal and being excited. I remember the biscuits. I used to be like, can I get, don't touch it, don't touch it until everyone sits down. So I think
Mhm.
that I take that analogy and I bring it to my life, and I want my life in a sense in which I have, cultivated a group of people, family members, friends, fans, supporters that are around me that I could be like, wow,
Yeah.
everyone's winning. Everyone is winning. And I feel like, when you're a part of a winning circle, you definitely are a part of a winning team. And, internally, you're always winning. So I like how you're breaking those things down. And something I want to, know right now is like, could you provide us with like maybe top three best practice you recommend for ERG
Yeah.
leaders? Top three.
Yeah.
I know it's on the link. I know it's on the
No,
link,
no,
but
no. I'll
I'm
tell
trying to
you.
get people to the link now.
There's so many, but one of them is around scalability. Like when you're an ERG leader, you really don't have this is like a second job because you have your core role that you were hired to do at the company, and then it's this additional role that you've taken on as part of that. And so you're essentially juggling two roles. And so I say scalability is like as you're working towards what you've decided, one, like decide what you're trying to achieve. Like in 12 months, what are you going to be celebrating? And then tactically, how are you planning to get there? Find ways to develop scalable programs instead of these small snackable bites because they take a lot of time to execute. Two, I would say intersectionality, which kind of ties into the scalability side. There are a lot of employees that are at the cross of many of the communities that exist within your organization. I am a woman, I am a Latina, I am an ally to many communities. Like I'm part of like 6, 7 ERGs, right? So it's an opportunity for you to band together with other ERG leaders to create something even bigger and more impactful for larger employee groups. And then I would say the third is I forgot the African proverb, but if you want to go far, like go together. And so
Yes,
you
yes, that is correct. Come on.
use
Yep.
your resources within the company, right? So there's a likelihood that you're either working with your HR team or your DEI team or DIB team to be able to align with them to understand what are the company goals and objectives as a whole. And then what are the DIBS team or your DEI team, what are their goals? So you have a full understanding of what you need, but also you have their support to do the things that you want to do for your community. So
Mm,
I'd say those three are probably like pretty big, but in no particular order. I list out like top 10 best practices in the course. Yeah, and just wildly helpful. Again, it's like two roles, and you need to find scalable ways that you can work together to drive the most impact. I think a lot of folks do things because they sound really fun, because they are fun.
Yeah.
But if they're not going to drive impact, it's like, is it worth, if is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, what are you trying to achieve? And does that align with what you're looking to achieve this year and your strategic priorities that you've outlined for yourself?
It's important that we do that,
Yeah,
and every now and then check ourselves.
100%.
You gotta check yourselves as because the journey, it looks good in the beginning, but then all of a sudden you start looking around like, I didn't really sign up for this, and
Right.
you got to make the choice to dip out or stay, or even use your voice and say
Yes.
something. But sometimes people get afraid, people get worried. You know, no one's promised tomorrow, no one's promised a job tomorrow, so it's like it's a lot of factors, a lot of factors. Why is Latino representation in leadership positions in corporate America so important to you?
I mean, even the way I grew up, it's like not, and I don't think, again, I don't think that this is just for Latinas, but I think it's for underrepresented groups as a whole. We've had to like be creative and resourceful and overcome adversity. And we get things thrown at us, when we're younger, at least, because I grew up in humble beginnings, like I had all these things thrown at me and I have found a way. And that's the same story for many, many Latinos in the US and around the world. And because of that, I feel like it's so important to have representation there because we're fighters, we can solve things, we drive outcomes, we drive impact. We have diversity of thought. I think in general, having diversity of thought and diverse perspectives in an organization is going to drive better outcomes for the
Yeah,
organization. Revenue
yeah,
perspective,
I give you
creative
that.
output is going to be through the roof, etc. So I think from a Latino perspective, having our voice there, and really respecting the culture, respecting the history, and respecting our superpowers, the value that we bring, I think is wildly important. And understanding that Latinos are not a monolith. We come in all different shades, and we come in with all different experiences. Um, and I think that that's really important to honor that and to know that we have the ability to go far beyond what many perceive us to be able to do.
Mhm. And obviously community, obviously love is a part of that.
Of
So
course.
when, have it, if that it's a part of someone's culture, like love or respect, then hey, look, I want that person at the top because
Right.
they value something that some people, even if in the position, wouldn't have. They would value in money, they would value in
Right.
power and all the wrong things. So
You know what's crazy? Can I just say something? You said something really important. So yes, community, 100,000%, if that's even a number. But you said around the money piece. When I was early in my career, I was chasing the check, you know what I'm saying? Because I had no money, so I needed to chase the check.
yeah,
And that slowly became less fulfilling. The best case scenario is like you are doing a job you love and you're getting well compensated for it. So like, yes, but that should not be the driver unless obviously absolutely necessary. But
yeah,
in reality, I got asked this question a couple of years ago, and they asked me, if you had to have two things in any job that you're in, what would it be? And I automatically said people and money, right? Because I want to work with good people,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever the goal is, but I also want to get paid for it. And he challenged me. He's like, I want you to go back with that answer and really sit with it and like think about it. What are the two things you would want in any role that you must have, regardless of money? And it took me a minute to get out of that mindset of like, let me get that check, let me get that check. And it really came down to building. I love creating things and building things and innovating with the right people.
Yeah.
Because if you have the two things that you love the most together, organically, the money will come. Because you're going to work harder at it. You're going to like be passionate about what you do, and that money will come.
I agree. 100% agree. I tell that to a lot of people I coach and mentor. I said, don't even chase a check. If you're going to do this for the money, you're going to make some good money, but I don't think
Short
you
term.
won't have that longevity, right?
That's right.
It'll be like a nice little, reel on Instagram that, goes viral, but I want you to have longevity with it. And if it
Yeah.
means smaller, middle-sized checks for the rest of your life, give me that. Then instead of giving me one nice, good, big, juicy check that's going to run out by the end of the year.
I agree. I
Right?
mean, that also takes integrity,
Yeah,
right?
it does. It does. I mean,
It's a I feel like it's based on character too, you know? If you're
Yeah,
able to, I mean, I think base things on like your morals and your values and really lead with integrity in everything that you do.
yeah. Okay. Well, Illiana, I must say you have been dropping some significant gems on this show today, and I greatly appreciate that. And you obviously sharing your stories. You have a very unique way of describing things and breaking things down in order to make it more feasible for someone to digest. So I appreciate you for that, and obviously letting our listeners know where to find some information out on your page on LinkedIn. So listeners, if you get the opportunity, please go check it out and get that information. But I want to leave you with one last question.
Perfect.
Right? It's a big one right here. What advice? Because you know that's always the big one. What advice would you give to aspiring leaders in underrepresented communities looking to like break past barriers but still stay authentic, right? As in their identity as they incline.
Um, I hate saying the word that filler, but what I would say is when you're in any room, because a lot of times I've been the only woman or the only Latina woman in any room. And for a long time, I would have this imposter syndrome or feel like my voice was going to be silenced if I spoke, etc. I want you to remind yourself of this. You're in this room because you deserve to be there just as everyone else is. Everyone else is there for a reason, as are you. You were hired for the job that you're in because you had the superpowers, the ability, the skills to deliver on what they needed for that role. And
Yeah.
so remind yourself that you are enough and you are worthy of every single opportunity that anyone else who has the same skill set and desire and dreams as you to get. And so that's the first thing I'll say. The second thing I'll say is if you're feeling like this, many others are probably feeling the same. They may or may not look like you. And you could either choose to be in the shadows or choose to be in the light.
Mm,
And the
mm,
light just
mm.
feels so much better. And so really understand the power of your voice and what you could be leaving as part of your legacy by being part of the change that you wish to see. That's it.
Okay, New York. Okay, New York, you about that bully. You was on your bully right there. Just
There you
really broke that down and said, look, this is what you got to do. Thank you, Eliana. Thank you so much for your time.
Hello there. How can I be of service?
Alexa, we don't need you right now.
I know we didn't even say her name. That's why I know they listening. They
That's
don't want good conversations like this coming up. They're like,
it.
look, they are really trying to impact the world here at Zaka. So let's stop that right there. But what I was trying to really get at before I was rudely interrupted over there is just thank you so much for your time and just being present. I know it getting you on the show and being here and expressing all these wonderful things and letting the listeners know where to go find information on you and about your workshops and stuff. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is awesome. Great meeting you virtually through a screen, but this is great. I appreciate the dialogue and just allowing me the space to be here and providing a safe space for us to have this conversation. So thank
Oh,
you.
come on, Zaka, all the way out. So I want to let the listeners know if you want to hear more inspirational stories like Ileana, please check us out on ZakaConnect.com. Follow us on our social at Zaka Connect and also follow our feed, Zaka, wherever you listen to your podcasts.